Hi, this is Talon Jane, and this is our third installment of the Beyond the SDI Assignments video. And in this video, we're going to cover the tools that you're going to need prior to entering SDI. Now, before we get too far into it, I'm going to go ahead and give you a spoiler. There's only two tools you really need that are not provided to you by the school in order to attend the school. Now, I could wait to the end of the video to tell you those two tools, but I'm not going to, okay? The two tools that you're going to need prior to entering SDI are a drill of some type. Now, I prefer a drill press. You're gonna make your life way easier using a drill press, and a vise, okay? Now, we can go as cheap as you want on these. You could go with the Chicago Electric Harbor Freight Special Drill. However, I think that would be a terrible idea. If you're going to go to Harbor Freight, pick yourself up a drill press. This is a very simple, very small drill press benchtop model that you can get at Harbor Freight for this much money, okay? This is the drill press that I had prior to the big one that I used in all of my videos. I got the big one that I have in all my videos. I got that off of Facebook Marketplace. It's a perfect drill press for a gunsmith, and it'll be the drill press I have till I pass it on down to my kids. It's like an Enco, like 1950s Enco or something like that. You can find really good deals on Facebook Marketplace, so I highly recommend that that's what you do. If you can't get on Facebook Marketplace, just buy the nicest drill press that you can afford. This drill press is very inexpensive, very affordable, and will do everything that you need just for your SDI schoolwork. Now, if you're talking about being a gunsmith afterwards, you're gonna need to upgrade. But if you're just talking about attending the classes, this is it. So that brings up the second thing that I want to talk about, which is the tools that you use for school may not necessarily be the tools that you want to use as a gunsmith or in the industry. The school is going to provide you with a tool that is good enough for you to learn the lessons that you need to learn. They're not necessarily the best quality tool that you're going to want working in this industry. I see a lot of complaints about the tools that are provided by SDI. I would say don't focus on the tool, focus on the lesson and what you're supposed to be learning using the tool. For example, they send you a set of gunsmithing screwdrivers. They're perfectly good screwdrivers. If you don't plan on being a gunsmith, they're great screwdrivers. They're going to work for just about everything that you need working on your guns in your home. Okay, if you do plan on being a gunsmith, I recommend you look into the Real Avid set that I have. I'm not sure the exact set of what it is, but it's the bigger set of screwdrivers. I use it in all of my videos. If I'm using a screwdriver, I'm using that Real Avid set. Real Avid's not my sponsor yet. Real Avid, if you're watching this, I love your products, I love your company, and I will continue to push. So, you know, maybe someday contact me, because I would have saved a ton of money if you had been my sponsor throughout this. So we talked about the drill press that you're going to want. Again, this one will work for while you're in school. If you're planning on being a gunsmith after school, then I would look for something a little bit better. The top quality ones that Harbor Freight has are perfectly fine for what you need, even as a gunsmith. They have really good stuff when you get into the higher tier. This lower tier stuff is perfect for what you need for the schoolhouse. The second thing that you're gonna want is a vise. You're gonna use a vise in almost every one of your classes. You're gonna wanna spend as much as is necessary to get a vise that meets your requirements. I see a lot of people in their videos using the super cheap Harbor Freight vise, which is totally fine, and it will work and it will get you through school. However, I recommend, if you're gonna go with Harbor Freight, that you look into their Doyle series of vices, which are the red vices that Harbor Freight has. They're a lot higher quality. It's what I used for my Kydex press build. If you're gonna look at the Doyle vices, I'd specifically look at this one. This is a really good vise. Kind of your lower end of your, or the higher end of your low budget vices. and it will definitely get you through everything that you need at the schoolhouse and probably last you forever. I will end up getting one of those and putting it in my gun shop, in addition to the vise that I highly recommend, which is the one you're going to see in every one of my videos. And if you don't get this vise and you're watching my videos later, you're going to be jealous that you don't own this vise, okay? Which is the Real Avid Master Vise. The Real Avid Master Vise was made and designed for gunsmiths. It is by far, way and above and beyond, the best vise that you could possibly use to go through this program. You're gonna see it in my scope lapping class. I use it a lot there. You're gonna see it in the checkering class. I use it a lot there, but I'm pretty sure that I used it in just about every class. The muzzleloader build, it was all over in there. It was in my 1911 classes. I used that master vise probably in almost every class that we had. I need to apologize about the video that I made on who should attend SDI. I focused a lot of that video on military students and people using the GI Bill. I'm about to do that again to some extent. However, even if you are not using the GI Bill, SDI is a great option for a lot of people. So for those people that left comments and stated, hey, I'm not using the GI Bill and I still see SDI as an option, thanks a lot for helping other people out. I'm only going to talk about what I know, and that's one of the things that I mentioned. So now, as far as the students that are attending SDI using their GI Bill, please allocate some of your BAH money towards upgrading your tools. That's kind of what I did. I let my spouse know ahead of time that, hey, we're going to be getting this extra money every month for school. Don't count on it because I'm going to be using that to upgrade my gunsmithing setup. I used it to get my license. I used it to pay for getting my business license. I used it, for my FFL. I used it for buying tools. I used it for a lot of different things, basically helping myself get to the point that when I finished SDI, I was ready to run a business. I may have used it once or twice to help purchase a firearm. So either way, I digress. If you're doing the associates program, you're going to take 2 additional classes that require a lot of extra tools. One of those is the checkering class, and one of those is the muzzleloader class. If you watch my videos about those 2 particular classes, you're going to see me use a lot of extra tools, especially in the checkering class, but I kind of went a little bit ridiculous in that one. In the checkering class, they sent me a block of wood, which you've heard me complain about several times. However, in that class, I turned that block of wood into a gun stock. When I did that, I used band saws and grinders with flap discs and orbital sanders and things like that. You don't have to turn that block of wood into a gun stock. All you have to do is sand down one side. You can do that by hand. However, at the beginning of that course, it mentions something along the lines of use the hand tools provided or whatever. One of the other things that you're going to need to pay attention to is the Kydex build class. They have you build a press. In my Kydex press build, I used a welder and a bunch of other stuff to build this kind of ludicrous press or whatever. The only thing they want you to build is like this clamshell style press that's made out of 2x4s and plywood. Most of you probably live in a decent enough city to have a Home Depot or a Lowe's. If you live where there's a Home Depot and Lowe's, they can cut all that stuff apart for you, but you're still going to need to assemble it. That goes back to needing a drill in order to put the stuff together. So if you're cutting it all and making it yourself, you're probably going to need a chop saw, and you're going to need a table saw or a skill saw so that you can cut it out, or you can just buy a board that's the right size for what you need. There's a lot of videos of people that put together the press that the schoolhouse wants you to build. I just recommend before you get to the Kydex class to really start doing research on Kydex presses and find a design that works for you, because you don't have to build the one that the school suggests. And if you watch my video on my Kydex press build, I didn't build the one the school wanted. at all, like even a little bit, not even close. It was some monstrosity. So the classes that require additional tools or additional stuff, if you watch the video that I created for that class prior to attending, you're going to see the tools that I ended up using that are different. I did that specifically in every video. I mentioned what I had to get that was different than what the schoolhouse provided. So if you're worried about a class coming up, before you get into that class, just watch a couple of the videos, at least the first little bit, or skim through them, and you're gonna see what I did differently. For example, in the scope ring lapping lab, I used a different lapping compound than what the school provided. And in that video, I explained why I used that lapping compound and why I think it was better. If you watch the machining class, which I think is like one of my most popular videos because the school did a terrible job of kind of explaining that particular lab. But if you watch that lab, you'll see not only how to do the lab, but you'll see kind of the additional tools that I used in order to do that. The school does provide you with a Dremel tool, or, I don't think it's Dremel brand. I think it's like Wen brand or something like that. They provide you with a rotary tool. I highly recommend that you purchase an actual Fordham. You don't have to get a Fordham. I got the Harbor Freight one and it works fantastic, but the pedal driven rotary tool that you could get from Harbor Freight for like 35 bucks works so much better. You get complete control of the speed. You can hold a lot of stuff. I use that tool almost exclusively. You'll see me a lot in the 1911 build class and probably some in the muzzleloader class, but definitely in the 1911 class, I use that rotary tool. I gave the Dremel tool to my son, so you'll notice that with a lot of the tools I mentioned, I gave this to my dad or I gave this to my son. It's because I upgraded whatever this schoolhouse sent me. I upgraded usually to a Real Avid version of it or a Harbor Freight better version of it or whatever. The exceptions is I still use the brass hammer, even though I have 2 or 3 different brass hammers. I like the one that the schoolhouse sent. And the files, I used all the files that they send. So the little ones and the big ones, you're gonna need those. And what else? I think everything else that I use, I purchased separately. So you're gonna need a buffer of some type for a lot of the different classes. The muzzleloader class, if you want your brass to look nice, you're gonna need a buffer. You're gonna need a buffer if you're doing, used it in the Kydex class. And where else did I use a buffer? I think I used it muzzleloader and the Kydex. And I'm sure I think I might have used it in the 1911 class when I was trying to buff up the sides of stuff. You can get a Harbor Freight buffer, or you can just get a motor off of Facebook Marketplace. That's what I like. If you're going to buy a buffer and money's not an object, I highly recommend getting a variable speed buffer. The buffers that you purchase kind of cheap or inexpensive in a lot of the motors that you find run at a 3,450 RPM, which is just like super fast. And you'll end up burning up a lot of products or being careful. You got to be careful when you're using that kind of speed. The variable speed buffers that you can dial down will make your life a lot easier. I don't have one yet and it drives me absolutely crazy. I have a motor that runs pretty slow and that's what I used. And I kind of explained my buffer a lot in the Kydex build. So if you get to the Kydex holster, I think it's like the 2nd or 3rd video in the Kydex series, I'll explain the buffer that I use, and so you can go there and look at that. So I guess in conclusion to this video, which is already longer than I anticipated it being, when really the whole point of this video was to tell you need a device and a drill press, is watch the video for the class that you're going into prior to attending the class that I put out, and you'll see any of the tools that I used or needed while I was doing it. In addition, you can skim around, but usually in the beginning I mentioned whatever the different tool was. One thing I want to note though is that the classes at SDI are changing very rapidly. Even now, I just graduated. I just got my email that says that I graduated, and I'm seeing a lot of new classes that are doing things differently than the way that I did them less than a year ago. So if you're watching this and you watch my video and it doesn't seem to line up with what you're talking about, then don't do what I did, okay? Use it as a guide, but don't use it to follow exactly. I got 100% on every single video that I posted. If it wasn't 100%, I would have pulled it down. So look at the description in the video. If it matches the description for your assignment, then you can follow what I did. If it doesn't match the description, then don't follow what I did. I made sure that I put the description for every assignment is under every video, exactly. So if you're not sure what you're going to need to do in an advanced class that's coming up, you can probably look at my video and look at the description. But classes like the basic ballistics class is completely different from what I saw. They've changed a lot of things. You guys are getting like scales now for measuring. That's completely different than what it was when I went through. So, you know, take what I say with a grain of salt, do your own research, but if my video is up and the description matches the assignment description, then I got 100% on it, and you can kind of go with whatever I said. So I'm not trying to lead anybody astray. It would be very beneficial to each other if you would leave a comment on a video. If the description of the assignment has changed, please comment that on the video so other people can see it. So if now, you know, if when I did it, there was a 5-minute requirement to the video, my video is going to be 5 minutes long. If they change that to 3 minutes, put a comment on there that says, hey, these are no longer 5 minutes, it's a 3-minute video, not a 5-minute video. It'll really help each other out. I really want to build a community of SDI students helping each other out on these videos, so I hope that helps. So with that being said, buy a vise and a drill press. That's really what this was all about. Buy a vise and a drill press, and you know, all of the other stuff, the sandpapers and the abrasives and the steel wool and everything else that the school doesn't provide. You'll see that in my videos as you're going through them. So best of luck to you. If you guys need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I hope this video helps at least in some way. Thanks.
Do you realize what you've done? Hey! Lloyd! Lloyd!
I forgot to mention you're gonna need a gun.
I'm going to need a gun.
Right? If you don't have a gun, you have to have one in order to attend SDI. Every single class requires at least some familiarity with a firearm. Okay, the very first class, you're gonna start taking apart and cleaning these things. So if you don't have a gun, this is a perfect time for you to go get one. In fact, I have an FFL. You can just leave a comment below and I'll sell you a gun. Super cheap, your SDI discount right here, SDI. Basically at cost. I'm gonna make $1 for shipping. But either way, you know, you're gonna need a gun.